All right. Well, as you guys know, we are super, super excited because our guest is here. You guys can see him on the screen already. Superintendent Millard House is with us, and I'm just going to briefly hit a couple of highlights if you don't know about Superintendent House. First and foremost, he is our own. He's Wheeler Avenue's own, and we are delighted about that. We take great pride in that. But as of June 2021, Superintendent House was unanimous. Was unanimous.
You had
Unanimously was unanimously elected by the Board of Education as the superintendent of Houston Independent School District. Superintendent House most recently served as the superintendent of the Clarksville Montgomery County School System in Tennessee, and in 2021 was named Tennessee Mid-Cumberland Superintendent of the Year. So you guys, we didn't get any slouch here in Houston. We certainly have gotten the best and the brightest. Superintendent House hails from, though, Tulsa, Oklahoma, where there he started his career in education, and early on shown as a bright star, being one of the youngest administrators really across the nation, becoming a principal at the very young age of 26, and has even founded his own school, middle school, that had incredible performance, record-breaking performances there. So we are so fortunate to have Superintendent House to be with us, to be in this community serving our children. And we are absolutely delighted to have you with us tonight, Superintendent House. So with that, Reverend Odom and I are going to kind of tag team a little bit on these questions that we have for you.
in a gentle way. In a gentle way.
In a gentle way. And so I just wanted to, yes, sir.
And Reverend Odom, and to the Social Justice Committee and individuals that are watching. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be a member at Wheeler. We don't take the responsibility light and doing what we do on a daily basis, and we look forward to serving and sharing this evening.
All right, thank you.
God bless you.
Well, as I said, your tenure was announced in June of 2021. And then in February of 2022, you laid out a plan for the district, a 6-point plan for 5 years strategy. It included the following areas: building trust and reliability of our families and community, providing equitable opportunities and resources at every school, ensuring great schools and programs in every community, promoting high quality teaching and learning, delivering effective services and supports to students with exceptional needs, and cultivating world-class talent at all levels. So I just wanted to start with that and ask you a little bit about how that plan was developed. And now that we are 1 year in, how do you think that we are progressing toward that?
Dr. Anderson, you said it well. You just went through the 6 commitments that came out of the strategic plan. Now, when we set out on developing the 5-year strategic plan, we understood that our hopes and goals had to be informed by the community, quite frankly. So our strategic plan shows a major focus on equity and in student outcomes through the 6 commitments that you shared, particularly our focus on implementing high quality instructional materials, also improving the quality of services for our students with disabilities and their families, focusing on how we allocate funding to our campuses to ensure that our schools with the highest concentration of poverty have an equitable opportunity to have access to resources. My word of the year has been execution. Last year was about planning, but now it's about executing the plan. So we are, microscopically focused on making sure that the systems that we're using to execute our strategic plan are functional at a high level and are responsive to students in reference to the level of data that we utilize and receive each day. Now we believe in our strategic plan. I have a cutout every Monday where we're talking about it, ensuring that the alignment and everything that we do, everything that we spend is connected to it. And we know that if we stay the course, we will see the outcomes that we aspire for all of our students. As a matter of fact, the state has an accountability report card. And when I arrived in Houston, one of the things that I did at my Listen and Learns is shared that we had 50 D and F schools when I arrived in Houston. You can receive an A, B, C, D, or F. And after 1 year of putting systems and processes, pushing portions of the strategic plan, 40 of those 50 schools came off of the D and F list.
Praise the Lord.
40 of those 50 schools are now either A, Bs, or Cs. So while there's been solid progress made, there's still a lot of progress to continue to make, but we're definitely up to the challenge that's in front of us to continue executing.
Such a good segue. It's amazing, system of accountability that you've put together, and you're meeting each week and kind of taking a look at where you're standing with those and what has emerged as the biggest challenges, what things have come out of that system of accountability that you've recognized that we need to focus on this and get some execution going.
So great question. And my team and I continue to work within the community to address the major enrollment concerns and inconsistent resources among campuses. I'll speak to the enrollment concerns first. When I arrived in HISD in 2021, what I will say, the district had just lost 13,000 students in 1 year.
Wow.
13,000 students.
Is that COVID related? Is that have a lot to do with? I figured that would be a big challenge.
A lot of major urban school districts across the country have seen some of the same issues. So a lot of it has been COVID related. But HISD has seen a gradual decline in enrollment even prior to COVID, quite frankly. We were a school district of 216,000 students at the pinnacle reach of the district, and we're about 190,000 students. So in short order, we've seen 13,000 in 1 year, again, right before I got here. And then the idea of a slow decline even since that time has occurred. But we continue to work, on these inconsistencies, not only in enrollment, but also from the standpoint of resources at each one of our campuses as well. Our strategic plan is already tackling many of those challenges by building trust and reliability with as many families as possible throughout the community, and ensuring that great schools and programs and promoting high quality teaching and learning, providing better support of our students with exceptional needs, as I mentioned earlier, and cultivating world-class talent, meaning if we not only attract good talent, we have to keep good talent at all levels. And I'll share a little bit later around exactly what that looks like. One of the things that we knew we had to do coming out of the gates, of the 16 different school districts in the region in Houston, HISD was 15th in pay. That's just in the Houston area.
It's hard.
So we came back in with a compensation plan because we had way too many vacancies. Our babies need a certified teacher to start the school year off. And this year, for the first time, this past summer, we had the highest stay power, which means the number of teachers that stayed from the end of last school year to the start of this school year. And then on top of that, we had the highest rate of filling vacancies to start the school year that we've had in several years as well. We had 95% of our vacancies filled. And that's not good enough, but it's much better than what we've seen in the past. So those are a couple of the biggest challenges that we've seen, and we're continuing to push on that. We did raise teacher pay to $61,500 for first-year teachers, which puts us second in the region. So we feel like we're more competitive to get teachers and be able to hang on to them from a compensation standpoint.
Excellent.
So as you talk about that, I mean, there are so many issues when you have a district as large as this. And for our ministry, of course, one of the things that we're always kind of looking at is the connection as far as systemic issues. And so we have been looking at the issues of literacy. And because we know that there's such a strong connection between literacy and the pre-K to prison pipeline, and what happens when a student is not on grade level reading by third grade. So, you know, I know this is very kind of micro, but what are some of the things that the district is doing to ensure that our students are at grade level as we move forward? One of the stories that we continue to hear after COVID was that how many of our students drop below grade level. So just kind of curious, what are your thoughts about how are we going to adjust that deficit?
Dr. Anderson, you hit the nail on the head. The research tells us, quite frankly, especially with our African-American boys, specifically. I was a young boy that grew up with dyslexia, grew up with a speech impediment, but had the kind of supports in a mother and father that were both teachers to be able to get what I needed to be successful. And that's one of my passions in doing this work. But specifically what we're doing in HISD is, number one, we're investing heavily in pre-K programs and expanding those programs so that more students have the opportunity to enter kindergarten prepared. That is so important. We have 3- and 4-year-old programs. This year we expanded 24 additional classrooms throughout the district.
Oh, wow.
The plan in the strategic 5-year strategic plan is to expand by just as many more classrooms next year and the following year. We're strategically looking throughout the city to where we have the necessary space, where we have the students that we know that our hot maps are showing that can fill those seats. And then we're moving forward with, the marketing plan to ensure that we get students in those seats. And we filled 24 of them this year. We've also been invested in high quality instructional materials and math and reading to ensure that students have access to grade level content every single day. That's really how you close the gaps. When we talk about grade level materials, HISD was a decentralized school district, which means every school could be doing something completely different. Different curriculum, different things. I've changed the mindset in reference to what that looks like from the standpoint of curriculum. So I have an expectation that there are very few things. We want research-based grade level curriculum to be utilized with our students. We do not want to allow for poor curriculum or non-grade level. If I'm a 5th grade, I have a son that's in 5th grade, my expectation is that he sees 5th grade curriculum. And not 3rd grade curriculum. So that is extremely important as well. Now, as a district, we've also invested deeply in the mental health and well-being of our students. If our students are not right here, they can't give you a whole bunch in the classroom. So there has been an investment, during and post-pandemic with counseling services, expanding wraparound service programs, and providing our schools with the additional funds to provide innovative solutions to our students to support in this area. We're also utilizing some of the federal COVID relief dollars, which will be sunset in 2023-24 to invest in a wide range of academic interventions at our schools, including reading and math interventionists at our campus, what we also call high dose tutoring as well. So if you're a student, I send my son, quite frankly, to ensure that he is afforded the opportunity to receive even more tutoring at his school, and those same opportunities exist pretty much in every school across the board. So those are some of the things as we talk about pre-K, as we talk about literacy, that they really align to what it is that we know the research tells us about being able to read by third grade and what that can mean for the rest of your life.
Mm.
I like that high dose tutoring. That is an excellent way to display it. I wanted to ask a quick follow-up to what you just shared. That is it's a remarkable achievement. I thank you for sharing with us about about the dyslexia. And have you ever sat and just, wow, I'm the superintendent of one of the biggest school districts in the country, and I had a learning disability. I'm sure that plays a role in your passion for education. If you don't mind speaking to that.
And it's not that I had a learning disability. I have a learning disability. You never get rid of dyslexia. You learn how to manage it. And and I was very fortunate to have a first grade teacher that was in my household, my mother, that recognized early on that something was different in comparison to my older sister, who's 5 years old. I think she's actually in the Zoom right now. But she was one that that excelled academically. And was there to support me along with my mother, but they recognized early on something was different and there were some struggles. But my mother did everything that she could with working extra tutoring programs herself to ensure that I had a chance to go to a dyslexia clinic that was, about 20 minutes from our home every Saturday for probably 3 years, the University of Tulsa. And that afforded me the opportunity. And that's a part of the passion that I have, that if any child can be afforded the right kind of opportunities, they can soar.
Right.
They can be the next superintendent. They can be the next Pastor Cosby. They can be the next, mayor. They can do anything they want to. But what we know is that there's a level of education that has to go along with it, whether that's career tech, whether that's community college, whether that's a bachelor's degree. But it starts in the early years and being able to provide the supports that our children need.
Yeah, I think that.
So how do you answer the critics that, that will say these wraparound services, we just need to focus on educating and leave all these social services to other people? What is your response to that? Because I've seen some of those criticisms before.
It's in those situations, you need to get folks into schools. They need to see some of the issues that our babies come to school with on a daily basis. Some people have no idea the baggage that these children, students, our babies come with on a daily basis. And if they can't have what's necessary from a social and emotional standpoint, a mental health standpoint, in their heads, they can't learn at a level that we expect and that we want for them. So in my eyes, the proof is in the pudding. You have to see what they're dealing with. They're dealing with a lot of issues, and it's important for us to meet them where they are and support them the way they need to be supported.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
So I think you spoke to the efforts that you've made to acquire and retain talent with teachers. And you've talked about that. And if you want to add a little bit to how important that is, to have teachers that care, teachers that are qualified, teachers that know what they're talking about, and the peril of just how much we're doing our children a disservice when we don't make an effort to get the best teachers.
Pastor Odom, the interesting thing is in the state of Texas alone, post-pandemic, 45,000 teachers a year are leaving the profession. 45,000 teachers a year are leaving the profession.
You already didn't have enough. Yeah.
And so there's a major shortage. out there already. So it is viably important for us to pay close attention to the major needs that we know are out there in terms of supporting our teachers. And this year, as I mentioned earlier, we passed a historic compensation package that will bring, of course, the starting salary for teachers to $61,500. We know in this time of staffing shortage nationally that we're looking forward to continuing to implement innovative programs and compensation solutions. We have high dose, we have hard to staff stipends. So those STEM areas, math, science, we actually have stipends on top of the $61,500 that we bring people in, $3,000 here, $5,000 there, to ensure that we get them, we keep them, and we build capacity in them over the course of time. So it's definitely we also have a grow your own program as well. So those that have not necessarily been traditionally trained as teachers, we have a program that we can help bring them into the profession if we see some of the skill sets that we know can help us, develop and derive an individual that wants to be in the field. We're working with the University of Houston downtown to ensure that we continue these kinds of programs to grow our own educators.
Excellent.
Well, obviously, one of the things that has been on all of our minds has to do with the TEA discussions of taking over HISD. You came in the middle of that when, even though there was an injunction at the time that you arrived. However, that injunction was lifted in December. And so some of the rumblings have begun again. I'm just curious about your feeling about that. We have very strong, in this group, we are very strongly opposed to a TEA takeover of our district. But we'd love to kind of get your thoughts on where that stands, and considering the incredible work that's just gone on, even in the year and a half or 2 years that you've been here. How is that influencing the conversation?
I think, first of all, what we have to understand is that this has been a long-standing back and forth between a Board of Education going back to 2017, 2018, prior to most of us, or prior to me being 2 states ago, quite frankly. But when I first came into the role, I was clear-eyed about the challenges that the district faced, quite frankly. I also knew that if we did the right work and kept students at the center of every decision that we made, we could move the district in the right direction in our communities. And we've seen some of that. We've seen some great progress in the right direction, been very, very proud. But unfortunately, when you're dealing with politics,
Right.
it's a little bit different world now. My team and I have been laser focused on giving each one of our students the academic experience that they deserve. Of course, that's been guided by community input. The district's developed, of course, and is executing what I mentioned earlier in our strategic plan. There's still much more work to be done, but we're excited about the progress that we're continuing to work. We've raised, like I said, a case for ourselves. And I think these kind of improvements have been felt across the district, including Wheatley High School being in IR for 7 years. We brought them out after being here for a year. Henry Middle School, very similar situation. Osborne Elementary. Some of these were long-standing scenarios, but what I will say is that the governor and the commissioner of education did receive a Supreme Court judgment that allows them to come in and appoint a board of managers in the near future. And there's not a whole bunch that the district can do, that the board can do, if the commissioner and the governor decide to move on that. The governor and the commissioner can also remove me. And there's not a whole bunch that I would be able to do about that either. Again, sometimes things are not necessarily about, because I'm the guy that the board hired, and there's been a long-standing, court case and fight between the board and TEA. So there's a lot of politics involved, but regardless of what happens, my job is to continue to man the helm of the ship, continue to focus on what it is for our children to have what they need to be successful, continue executing the strategic plan, regardless of the politics.
So part of our goal of what we do in this ministry is advocating. So how would you suggest? I know, Don. We're both like, okay, what do we need to do? So how can we offer our support to you and to the district? What do you say to parents, to community members who are very concerned? How do we let our thoughts and concerns be heard, and where should we do that?
I think of course we all know and understand that both the 88th legislature is in session as we speak, and voices have to be heard. As a matter of fact, I'm taking a big group of parents to the Capitol to try to support our legislative agenda. So there are voices that are hungry, that are out there. They need to communicate with their school board members. They need to communicate with their local folks in the legislature, whether it's a state rep or a state senator, to voice their successes, voice their concerns. I think that's the proper way to go about this and really move forward. I'm not a politician, I'm an educator, but I've been beating the bushes in Austin, doing everything that we can do on both sides of the aisle. We spent a week in Austin just here in the last couple of weeks, from office to office, lieutenant governor's office, several different state reps and state senators, telling our story, telling about what we're doing. We are a B+ rated school district. There are school districts that do not have such a rating across the state, but are not in a scenario where a board of managers could be placed in the district. So it doesn't have a whole bunch to do about, quite frankly, about what we've done or what we're doing. A lot of it, again, has to do with politics, and communicating with the local politicians is very important.